everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I'm going to be doing a tag video. I absolutely love doing these. I think I've only done a couple tag videos so far, but they are always fun. It kind of gives you different questions or prompts that make you think about different books besides your usual content you would create. So I'm excited to do this one. This is the first time I've done this. Obviously, it's the finally fall book tag, and I just started BookTube this year in January, so this is the first fall season for me. I do want to say thank you to Katie Reads. She tagged me in her video, and I will link her video down below. Make sure you go check it out. And then I did notice that she had actually done this the last few years, so kudos to you, because I honestly had a hard time with a few of these questions. Sometimes I overthink or overanalyze things, but some of these were a little more difficult than I thought they would be. So I'm going to list the questions, prompts, whatever you want to call it, down below. Make sure if you want to do this, please do this video, answer the questions. I would absolutely love to see it. You can tag me so I can see your video. I'm going to be tagging a few people, but if I didn't tag you, please do this video. I would love to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in because, as always, I don't want to talk too long like I tend to do. So we're just going to start off with the first question. The first question is, in the fall, the air is crisp and clear. Name a book with a vivid setting. So vivid setting, I don't know, maybe people have different interpretations of that, but my first thought is like stuff that's like really, like, you can feel it, you can see it in your mind. It's like amazing settings. It sucks you in, and like it builds a whole new world for you to like dive into. So immediately my mind goes to like fantasy romance. So honestly, like the number one thing I would think of is A Court of Mist and Fury, obviously ACOTAR as well. But since I love Reese, and then you get the Valaris and the Night, Court and all of that, like it just was built such a beautiful world, and you can just feel yourself being there, and it's just so, it's like described perfectly. Sarah J. Maas obviously goes into great detail and explaining and showing her world that she's created. So that one to me is such a vivid setting. The other one that I have in a different way is The Bully from the Kingmakers. The whole Kingmaker series, I think Sophie Lark did such a great job in building like this mafia Hogwarts world. And you have these different houses, and they're on this kind of like castle school grounds. It's like on an island that you can't get off of. And it was just such an interesting setting and so unique that one is just very vivid in my mind, of the different locations at that school and everything that goes on and bad things that happen there. And it's just so vivid. So I think that would be my other pick, because obviously some of these I'm going to give you 2 or 3 because I give too many examples, but we're going to break the rules there and do that. So the next one is, nature is beautiful, but also dying. Name a book that is beautifully written, but also deals with a heavy topic like loss or grief. So I have 2 again on this one. And honestly, they're from the same author, and I have them up here. I don't know if my camera's hitting both of them, but we have Sea of Ruin and Dark Notes. Now, Pam Godwin is the queen of dark romance, but she writes such emotionally like charged romances as well. I've said 100 times, like, I don't really cry in romances. I don't get overly emotional. But every time I read a Pam Godwin romance, I swear she gets me to cry. Literally, Sea of Ruin, the things that our heroine has to go through and the people she loses, and the beginning of this book, just the beginning. I mean, I bawled like within the first 30 pages of this book. Like, I was crying, like sobbing. It hit me so hard. And then the kind of trauma Bennett has to repeatedly go through. She is a female pirate. and she, is kind of on the run from her husband because they had a falling out, and then she gets taken captive, and she's being sent back to England to hang. And it's just the amount of shit this woman goes through it's dark. So just be aware of that. If you have not read Sea of Ruin, just check your triggers. Check your triggers for both of these books because they're both really dark, but they are so emotional. Dark Notes was emotional. It was a student teacher romance. Again, we have a heroine that's been through severe trauma. She deals with the loss of her father, who was very close to her. He was a pianist, and he really wanted her to be able to explore her future in that. So he put all his savings and what he earned into her going to this special school. And so her mother and her brothers are hateful to her. Her mother doesn't work. Her brother doesn't work. She's literally having to almost prostitute herself at school so that she can keep the lights on at home. She's being abused by her brother's best friend. There's just so much that goes on in this, and it just deals with a lot of loss and grief. But it also has BDSM as healing in this. She does get into a relationship with her piano teacher at the school, and it's just very beautiful where she's able to get her agency and grow and get her strength back through this BDSM relationship. So if you haven't read those two books, please read them. Just make sure to check your triggers. Especially Dark Notes does have an animal death in it. So I just want you to be prepared for that because I bawled like a baby during that scene. So the next one that I have here is number 3. Fall is back to school season. Share a nonfiction book that taught you something new. So I don't read a lot of nonfiction anymore. I mostly read romance, which most of these book answers are going to be romance. But I have read a couple, a lot of the nonfiction that I read is true crime or serial killer stuff. So you do learn something from that, but I don't know if it's life lessons or some people do motivational books or self-help books. I don't really read those. So one book that I did read, I really loved because I love the Borgias. I find history so fascinating. I do love reading about his historical stuff. So I read Blood and Beauty, and this is a pretty long book. I listened to an audiobook, and it goes into the whole history and everything that goes on with the Borgia family and him becoming the Pope and what goes on with Cesare and Lucrezia. And so it is a very detailed historical book, but it was fascinating because that family is crazy and fascinating, and it's a good time. The other one that I have is actually a true crime one, and it is about Ted Bundy. I do have a fascination with serial killers. I know that's kind of weird, but I did read The Stranger Beside Me. This is by Anne Rule, and she actually has written a lot of true crime, and she knew Ted Bundy. They were friends. They worked in this crisis hotline together when I think they were in college or something, and so she became really good friends with him. He showed her the fake Ted Bundy, the niceness, and the good guy kind of image he had. So this book really goes into a lot of the victims, details into the crimes. It's got pictures. I don't know if you can see it. But I actually read this for a school project because at that time I was going to school for criminal, psychology and forensics and stuff. And so I actually did a whole report on this, and it's just a very fascinating read. Okay, number 4. In order to keep warm, it's good to spend some time with people we love. Name a fictional family, household, or friend group that you'd like to be a part of. This is a no-brainer for me. If you are not new to my channel, you will know that I absolutely love this family and that they just mean so much to me. So here we go. It's Heartless is my favorite book out of all of them. But this whole series, the Eatons, this family, the Chestnut Springs series is just, I love it. Heartless is my favorite still. It was my favorite read last year. It's a 6-star read. Kate Eaton is book boyfriend. But the thing that I love about this family, it's very small town, working on the ranch. They all come together. The father, Harvey, is so amazing and funny, and I want him to have his own book because I feel like a romance coming from him. His little one-liners are so funny. He sees things going on and calls people out on their shit. I just love it. Like, Willa and Kate are my number one. And then, you have all the rest of the couples coming together, and they really are there for each other. In like Reckless, them coming together for Winter and like trying to help her when she has like this baby and she's on her own. It's just, they're such a beautiful group, and I love them so much. And you may think I'm kind of crazy for this other option that I have, but honestly, I don't really care because I love them. Obviously, not all of them in the family. Some of them are kind of but I do wish I was kind of in the world, and that is the Falcones. I love Nino specifically. I love Nino and Kiara's relationship. I love Ramo, even though he's a crazy guy. I still do love him. This is just one of my favorite romances of all time is Twisted Emotions. It's so beautiful. Obviously, I don't really like Savio, so I could take him or leave him. Adamo, I think didn't have a great book, but I did love his character when in these books. When he was younger, I thought that he was going to have a better story. But I just love their world, their like dinners they have together now that Kiara came into the picture and started kind of changing their dynamics. I love Ramo and his kids. So I would just love to be a part of this family. Number 5. The colorful leaves are piling up on the ground. Show us a pile of fall-colored spines. Okay, let me get my stack real quick and I'll bring it here. Okay, hopefully I'm going to show this in the right frame on the camera, but these are some of my picks that I have here. I did some of the reds to the yellows and orange, kind of a yellow orangish, so hopefully you can see that. Hopefully this is kind of in frame because I can't see it right now. Number 6. Fall is the perfect time for some storytelling by the fireside. Share a book wherein somebody is telling a story. This was the hardest one for me because in romances, especially contemporary, it's usually like told first person and it's just as the story goes. It's not really telling you a story. The only one that I could think of is not a romance, and it's one of my favorite books that I read for school too, and we really dived into all the meanings and went deeper into the story, but I absolutely loved it. And that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I think this is an amazing book. It's pretty short, but we like heavily highlighted and went into deep details on each of these chapters. And so I really loved reading it for school at the time. And it's such a great story. Dr. Frankenstein is telling his story on how he created the monster and how he ruined his life and the destruction he caused, the people he loses because of his actions. So I absolutely love this book. It's a great classic. I think everybody should read it. Okay, number 7 is The Nights Are Getting Darker. Share a dark, creepy read. I don't have a lot of creepy reads, but I do have some options here because I read a lot of dark romance. So I'm trying to give you some darker romance with some maybe weird vibes. I don't know, darker, creepier vibes. I do have Corrupt by Penelope Douglas. This was kind of like my first foray into dark romance. This is the first book in the Devil's Night series. I think it's a great intro to dark romance, and it gets pretty twisted and kind of creepy. It is around Devil's Night, so it's told in 2 timelines. In the previous timeline, it's like when our heroine was in high high school, and she ends up getting to go on this Devil's Night where these 4 guys are really popular and they get up to trouble on Devil's Night. Something goes wrong and 3 of them end up in jail, and they think that she is the one that set that up or caused them to go to jail. So now they are out for revenge. Michael was the one that didn't have to go to jail, but now his friends are out and they're coming after her, and Michael comes after her hard, manipulates her, like scares her, threatens her. So it's pretty dark. And then it's got the whole Devil's Night thing into it. So I think this will be a good pick for that. And then another option also is Still Beating. The first part of the book is kind of the creepy, dark, sinister vibe to it, because we do have we have our hero and heroine who they are not together. The hero, I think it's Dean, he is with the heroine's sister. So they've been together for years. He's her fiance. They don't get along. They're very contentious, don't like each other. And they end up getting kidnapped by this serial killer that kidnaps people and that don't like each other or not together, and forces them to like have sex and and forces them to like fall for each other, which causes like trauma bonding and all this stuff. So in the beginning, it is very dark. So just be aware, because they are kidnapped and forced to do things. And then after that, that's where we get the more emotional read of like what happens after you escape that kind of situation. So that does kind of have a gothic, like a darker vibe to it. The other one that I would bring up, I haven't read, but I've been dying to, is Gothicana. That's like more of like an academic, dark, creepy, gothic kind of vibe. So that would be a good option too. But I haven't read it, so I don't know. Number 8. The days are getting colder. Name a short, heartwarming read that could warm up somebody's cold and rainy day. So I have a few for this one. First, I want to bring up a novella, because I don't read a ton of novellas. And then a lot of them are just kind of smutty good times. This one I actually loved. It's like a 5-star novella to me. It's Tessa Dare, and that is Beauty and the Blacksmith. It is just so cute. We have a hero that's a cinnamon roll hero, which she doesn't usually do. And he's a blacksmith. This girl, woman, is a lady of privilege. Her mom's trying to get her to marry somebody higher up, and of course she falls for the blacksmith, and it's just so sweet. I love that book. It's the sweetest novella. And then I just read Fall by Claire Kent, and this is kind of a different one because it is set in space. But this woman gets sent, basically deserted on this planet that's kind of like a prehistoric, savage, almost caveman type of planet, because she was a smuggler and this is her punishment. She's just deserted there and she has to try and survive. She ends up kind of needing protection from this clan, this group, and they are pretty primitive. And so there's a language barrier, but the romance between them is just so sweet. And I don't know, it just gave me these feel-good vibes. And I love the whole language barrier. And he's kind of like a caveman. And she's this independent woman that actually has to depend on somebody. And it's just really sweet. I don't know. Maybe that'll make you feel good. It made me feel good. The other one that I want to bring up is a shorter book. I mean, it's not really a novella, but maybe you consider it, is Soul Eater by Lily Mayne. This was one of my favorite books this year. It was a 6-star read. This is a monster male romance. And even though it's a monster romance, it is so sweet. These monsters are so gooey for their men, and it is sexy. I mean, the sex scenes that happen between our characters, because the monster has some different anatomy going on, and it is just hot. And I mean, this Soul Eater, he is amazing. He will do anything for his man. He's so protective. He loves him. So honestly, this gave me the warmest, gooeyest feelings reading this book, and I absolutely love this series so far. So I would definitely try this one. Okay, so I'm so sorry. My camera died earlier while I was filming this. So I didn't realize it till the end. So we need to redo a couple of these questions. Sorry if the lighting, the angle is different because I had to charge my phone. Because I do everything on my phone. So I'm sorry. But let's get to these last couple questions, and hopefully it doesn't look too bad. We'll see when I'm editing how bad this looks. But we have question 9, which is fall. Luckily, it's my favorite season. Returns every year. Name an old favorite that you'd like to return to soon. So these are kind of like your favorite kind of rereads, I would take it as. I'm going to bring up my number one reread book, like the book that I love to reread. I always visit it. I'd actually need to do it again this year. And it is a book that like is dear to my heart from reading it as a really young age. And that is The Wolf and the Dove by Kathleen E. Woodiwiss. You've probably heard me talk about this in videos if you're not new to my channel, but this was my like first historical really romance. I read this in junior high, which it's pretty dark and has some dark subject matter for at a young age. But this is just a warning. Kathleen E. Woodiwiss is like, I think the first historical romance author. But this is from the bodice ripping kind of era. And so it's not always consent, or there'll be some iffy subject matter because this was, I think, in like the 1980s. I can't remember when this one was released. If I have it here. Oh, 1974. So yeah, this is an oldie, and I just love it. It's got like total captive vibes, which I love captive. So in a historical romance that's dark, I mean, they were getting her country's getting taken over, and Wolfgar is basically taking over and conquering their lands, and he basically takes in our heroine and makes her be his. Before he does that, though, one of his men sexually assaults her, and her mother was also sexually assaulted. So there is a lot of dark subject matter in this. I need to reread it so I can speak more again about like the details. I might do that soon. But this is a book that is very nostalgic for me. I'll go back to it all the time to reread it. I just love it. I don't know. I can't let anybody speak bad about this because I love Kathleen E. Woodiwiss, and I know her content and her books are not going to be for everybody, but I do think you need to like show some respect for one of like the historical romance, like, queens, and the beginning of it, really, that she pushed that genre. So absolutely love this book. The other one that I'm going to bring up, I actually want to do a reread really soon of. I've only read it once, but I think about it all the time, and I want to experience it again. And that is Untouchable by Sam Mariano. Untouchable is one of my favorite dark romances. I think it's, people may consider it a bully romance, but I think it's so much more than that. Carter Mahoney will live rent-free in my head. He is a devious psychopath young man that's in high school, and he sets his eyes on our woman here. In this story, I mean, you need to get past the first few chapters because there is sexual assault at the beginning of this book by the hero. So it's not dubious consent. It's non-consent. But the heroine in this book, she basically spoke out against a football player that touched her without her consent and was acting like a slime, just a douchebag, and she reported it to the school, so they kicked him off the team for the year. And so the football team and all the popular kids are basically bullying her and all pissed off about this. She gets stuck in a classroom with that football player along with a couple other football players, including Carter Mahoney, who is the star. He's untouchable. He's, ruthless. And he basically sees her standing up to this football player, and he's intrigued. And so he gets involved and says that she needs to suck him off or screw him before she leaves that room. And so she does it. She does give him a blowjob, and he is fascinated by her. and basically shows up the next day because she calls out sick from what happened to her and woos her mom, brings soup, and wants to date her. So I love this book because it's like a boy with like psychopath tendencies, and like how do you deal with his focus and his obsession with you. I loved it because it's much more psychological, like going into the psychological aspects of it, of falling for somebody like that, of trying to curtail their urges so they're not hurting others, where you can put that kind of onto you. There's just so much more to it. And I think Sam Mariano like really pushes the limits, and this was like my beginning of my love for Sam Mariano. And then I got sucked in. So I really want to reread this soon. Okay, so number 10 is fall is the perfect time for cozy reading nights. Share your favorite cozy reading accessories. So I have to read in bed. I like to just be in my room, secluded, in my bed, cozy. I may have, let me see here, a glass of wine. You may think, oh, tea or coffee or something warm and cozy. I'm going to have wine most of the time. And I do got to admit, I live in San Diego, so we don't really have seasons here. Like right now, I put on a little cozy sweater for this fall video, but really it's like 80 degrees and the air conditioner was just on a little bit ago. So it's a nice, beautiful day. It's not really cold or fully fall weather, but it's fall for us in San Diego. The other thing that I love is just any type of candle. I love these White Barn candles. I think they're from Bed Bath & Beyond. I get them from Amazon, and they just have such a strong scent that like really stays in the room for a long time. This isn't really a fall scent, but it's white gardenia, and it's like one of my favorite scents. And then the other thing too is just cuddling up with a warm, cozy blanket and my cat. My cat's outside right now, so I can't really put him on to show, but I love him in my lap with a book, and I'm all set to go. But those are going to be the questions. The last one is basically just spread the autumn appreciation and tag some people. So I'm going to tag my favorite booktuber, Jen from the Book Refuge. No pressure. She definitely doesn't need to have to do this because I know she's busy and has lots of content to do. Rachel Reads and Sings is another one of my favorites. And then Autumn from Nose in a Book, I want to do tag her because I love watching her videos and she's so sweet and a great follow on Instagram. If I didn't tag you and you're watching this, please do that. You give it a shot doing this finally fall tag. You can tag me so I can see your video. This was really fun. Thank you so much to Katie Reads for tagging me so that I can do it this year. Maybe this will be a yearly thing that I do. I don't know. But thank you. Sorry for the change up in angle and lighting and everything, but it was a long day Sunday. We did our live show and I was trying to film another video, and then I filmed this video and I didn't pay attention to my camera. It was pretty much dead. Anyways, thank you for watching this. As always, please remember to like or subscribe, and then I will see you on the next one.